I spent $1.3 million to buy better friends. Yeah, that's right. Let me explain what I mean by that. Hey guys, Yuri Elkaim, CEO and founder of Healthpreneur. We help health professionals and coaches build scalable coaching businesses that transform more lives. This is #winning. This is the series on our channel where I give you the no BS truth about what it takes to win in business and in life. And I want to share with you what I mean by me spending and investing specifically $1.3 million to buy better friends. So a few weeks ago, I was in Northern Ireland with 4 of my closest friends. And these are guys that I've known for the past 15 years. We all started off as trainers, like fitness trainers. We all came online more or less around the same time. And we kind of gone through this journey together in some way, shape, or form. Now, all of these guys run 7- and 8-figure businesses. All of them are fathers. All of them have good relationships. They obviously prioritize their health. And what's interesting about this is that, I can count on my hand how many people in my life outside of this group fit that mold. And it's probably 1 or 2 other people in my close proximity. So how did I meet these individuals? Well, I met them in other coaching programs, masterminds, and live events that I decided to attend way back in the day. In fact, back in 2010, when I attended my first event, after 3 years of struggling by myself behind the computer, I ended up meeting one of these guys in the gym at the event that I was going to. Funny thing is, we actually lived in the same city, but never met each other. We knew kind of each other. We'd seen our stuff online, but this was our opportunity to finally meet each other. At another event, a couple months later, I ended up meeting another one of these guys. And I was actually en route, like walking from my hotel room to the conference room, and I saw him in the restaurant, and I just kind of sat down beside him and I said, hey man, I just wanted to introduce myself. We kind of knew each other from what we were doing online, but hadn't met each other in person. That turns into what we famously call now the 8-hour lunch. And it was interesting because it was just the 2 of us initially, and then like 30 other people gathered around over the 8 hours. So that whole day, I didn't actually go to the conference. I actually just sat down in the restaurant and shot the shit over lunch. Another one of the guys I met in a coaching program I invested in, which at the time I didn't have money to pay for, but I threw it on my credit card. We ended up being in the same coaching program. And many, many years later, he actually became a client and obviously a good friend. And his business has done amazing things. So yeah, I share this because how I met these individuals, and by the way, we've been in each other's wedding parties, we've traveled together, we've had amazing experiences with our families as well as individually. And it's really special to have these kinds of friendships where you have people that are on the same page as you business-wise, but also personally. And it's something that has only come as a result of me putting myself in the situations and environments where those relationships would be possible. So when I say I invested $1.3 million to buy better friends, my closest friends today all came from coaching programs, live events, masterminds, or other experiences that I invested in to put myself in those rooms. I didn't just move into a neighborhood and my neighbor happened to be so-and-so. Like that hasn't happened. Most of my friends from high school, I don't ever talk to. Most of my friends from university, barring one person, I don't talk to. And that's because as an entrepreneur, it's not that I'm like too cool for school. It's just as an entrepreneur, it's like our growth curves are so dramatically different from most people that are just coasting through life. And it's very hard to find people who understand what you're going through, who are on the same page or further ahead. And you have to be very careful of where you spend your time and energy. I only want to spend my time and energy with people who are on the same wavelength, who can inspire me, who can challenge me, who understand exactly like what it's like to run an online business. So my encouragement to you from this video is to really think about how can you put yourself in environments where the types of people you want to surround yourself with are going to be present. And it just so happens we actually have our big annual event coming up in Scottsdale, Healthpreneur Live. If you'd like to apply to join us, there's a link below in the description. You can click over to the page and apply to see if it would be a good fit. And that's coming up at the end of September. But here's the thing is that, going back to this experience we just had in Northern Ireland, all of us started off as overworked, more or less underpaid personal trainers. We had a dream for a bigger future. We all came online and went through that journey of like having to figure things out, investing in ourselves, investing in coaching, investing in all the skills we had to build. And now we're in a position where, it's just life is a lot better. We're at our buddy's house, which was beautiful and in and of itself was very inspiring. And the one day a helicopter lands in his backyard and comes to pick us up, and we fly to Scotland for lunch at a Michelin star restaurant. And then we fly back to Ireland and we go to a spa and we're enjoying this beautiful view in a hot tub. And it's like, to create those types of experiences, you have to be at a certain place in your life where that's possible. Like that would never have been possible when I was working 14, 16-hour days as a trainer making $20 an hour. And it's also not like those types of experiences are nice, but to be honest, I get just as much joy from waking up in the morning, getting into my work, sitting in my backyard, jumping in my car, popping over to a coffee shop, grabbing a coffee, coming back. My life is very simple. I hang out with my kids all the time. I'm taking them to soccer. Like there's not a lot of extravagance in terms of red carpet experiences in my life. And when I have them, hey, listen, they're great, right? They're nice. They're nice moments to remind us of like, hey, like we've built these amazing businesses and helped all these people. And yeah, cool. We can enjoy these types of experiences because we have the financial and time wherewithal to do so. But, at the same time, there are most likely, and I remember this a couple of years ago, going back to, this is a while ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I remember going back into the gym that I used to work in. And this was like 15 years after having left. There were still people that were working in that same gym from when I was working there. I'm like, oh my God, like what a different life we have lived. And listen, I'm not judging my path as better than theirs. I'm just really happy that I made the decision to build what I wanted to build, because I don't know if they had the same vision. Maybe if they did, maybe they didn't have the courage to pursue it. Maybe they didn't have the vision and they were happy being where they were, trading dollars for hours. That's totally fine. Even in my 20-year reunion with our university last summer, 100-ish people in our faculty from the year I graduated. It was awesome. I graduated from physical health and education and kinesiology at the University of Toronto. What was amazing is that everyone looked the same. Like everyone was in good shape. They looked the same. They looked healthy. And it was like, just that alone was worth going to the school for, right? So talking about investing to buy better friends, for me, I don't think formal education, it's a bit of a joke, to be honest. Like I think you know that if you follow my stuff. However, I'm very blessed and grateful for the opportunity for having gone through that experience, because it set the foundation for everything in my life. Like I value health and physical fitness so much. And it was only, I guess, exacerbated or amplified by going through a 4-year degree in that very subject. And to see 100 other people from 20 years ago looking almost identical was proof of that. I don't think the engineering faculty would be the same as they were 20 years ago, if you know what I'm saying. But even then, a lot of my friends from that classroom 20 years ago, like none of them got into business for themselves. All of them are physical therapists, chiropractors, teachers, and that's it. And that's fine, right? That's cool. But the reason I don't associate with them anymore, it's not because I don't like them. Like they're great people. We had a great time reconnecting and hanging out. But that's kind of the extent of where it goes, because you become your environment and you become the reflection of your peer group. When you make more money in 1 week than your friends did, that your friends from high school or university do in a year, it's kind of hard to talk about, like it's, like being on the same wavelength with people. And it's not about saying like someone's better or not than someone else. And it's not to say that if you make more money, you're at a different level of worthiness or entitlement from someone else. It's not about that. But remember, money is simply a measure of impacts. And I think growth as well. I think it's, you'd be very hard pressed to sell me on the fact that someone who's a school teacher making $60,000 a year is on the same growth path as someone who's building $1 billion business. It's not. I mean, like the bigger the goals you're setting, the bigger the problems you're going to have to face and solve. And if you're not surrounding yourself with people who are on that same wavelength or that same trajectory, you are massively holding yourself back. And that's why you don't necessarily have to invest $1.3 million. That's what I did over the past 10 years. And that's what I continue to do on a monthly basis, to invest in coaching and mentorship and masterminds and all that stuff. Because It's not just the trainings. It's not the coaching calls. It's the people, right? It's the community. It's the people you get introduced to and you speak with and you see where their thinking is, and it challenges you to think and act in different ways that you may not have otherwise. And I've shared this message so many times in my videos. Like, I really, really hope you understand this. I'll just finish with this. So you are where you are, and if you want to be somewhere else in terms of further ahead, that's awesome. And that gap should frustrate you, right? You want to close that gap. If you want to build a certain level of business or have a certain level of freedom or get out of your current position to build your dream, you got to be associated to that. And I want you to associate to the consequences of that not happening. Because the problem in life in the Western world is that things are okay. Like, what happens if you don't make your goal a reality? Whatever. It's no big deal, right? It's not the end of the world. You have to make it the end of the world. And at the same time, you have to express a lot of appreciation for what you have. And that's kind of this balancing act. But I'll just finish with this one story about the power of the people around you. So this is back in 2012, I think. I was in a smaller group. So a spin-off from one of the bigger masterminds I was a part of. We actually got together in, I don't even know where it was, like Utah or maybe somewhere, I don't even know. And there was about 12 of us in the room. And at the time, one of our buddies was crushing it. Like, he was one of the guys who, when I first came online, this guy was making 8 figures selling ebooks, like one ebook in the fitness space. And I just thought that was crazy until it wasn't, right? But I remember a good buddy of mine who still is a very good friend of mine today. He was and still is a very well-spoken health expert. He had initially gone down the path of the TV, the media, the TV appearances, the writing the books, all that circus act, right? Looking like you're successful, but on the inside, you're making nothing. That was his situation. And so he came online and he's like total newbie. Like, he didn't know anything. Like, copywriting was totally foreign to him. And in that mastermind, he started to become aware of the power of some very basic skills like copywriting, messaging. And that was one of the skills he started to develop. And he was actually very, very good at it as he got into it. But I remember he was sitting at the table. So we're sitting at this longer table, and he sits in this chair and he's sitting beside our buddy who does like 8 figures selling an ebook. And at one point he leaned back in his chair just to stretch. And he caught just a glimpse of our buddy's computer, like his laptop. And he happened to be checking his stats, right? His financials, daily sales. And he almost fell off his chair because he saw numbers. And this is interesting, okay? He's friends with this guy, but he'd never seen the numbers with his own eyes. He had heard about this stuff, but now he's like leaning back in his chair and he's like, holy shit. Daily sales of 20,000, 25,000, 30,000. And all of a sudden, his entire worldview and belief system changed. He's like, hold on. So you're telling me that this guy who I just skied with, who's right beside me, who I've known for this amount of time, this is his daily experience? WTF. And so obviously that started to shatter his belief system because he's like, he's just a regular dude. There's nothing special about him. He's super quiet, super reserved. He doesn't have this huge influence. Like, no one knows who he is. And it started to shatter his belief system. So he leaves that mastermind, and obviously he has that new belief system of that's possible. And he goes to work for the next 2 years on mastering the craft of copywriting. And he becomes an excellent copywriter, right? Telling story, like just really, really good. And in the space of 2 years, he goes from 0 to 8 figures. 8 figures, 10 million plus in an information publishing business. Okay, so he was selling ebooks and courses and so forth, and eventually moved into supplements and etc. And I share that with you because I don't know if he would have had that same trajectory if he was not in the room. Another example is when I was starting Healthpreneur, I started off doing very small private workshops. And actually my buddy who I was just mentioning was at one of them. And then we had a young guy who, and I'm just kind of keeping their names private just for the sake of privacy. So he was a trainer in a boxing gym. He was about 20 years old at the time, and he attended this small workshop. There was about 6 of us. And in that workshop, we were talking about the importance of copywriting and messaging and so forth. So anyways, so he attends the workshop, we're working on his offer, we're working on how to position it, and obviously talking about the importance of copywriting. 2 years later, like literally 2 years later, we, kind of loosely kept in touch. The next thing I know, he's buying a penthouse in Toronto, cash. Toronto's one of the most expensive real estate markets in North America. And I'm like, he's 22 years old at the time. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? So all he had done for the previous 2 years was work on the craft of copywriting, right? And going through the process of getting better every single day, putting in the reps. And, if I can take a little bit of credit there in terms of moving him in the right direction, I will. But whatever, he put in the work. But the most important thing is he put himself in the room. He invested in himself to be there. And it's not like I shared everything that built his 8-figure business, but we got initial stuff going. He met other people in the room who then further supported him along the journey. And this is what is required to succeed in life and in business, is to be surrounded by other people who are going to introduce you to stuff you've never heard about, but also are going to help you model how to think. And this is one of the most important benefits of being around other very successful people, is you want to pay attention to how they think. Because it's not necessarily what they do, right? Because you can certainly model that, but think about how they think. How do these people respond to stress? How do they look at risk? How do they look at different situations where you might be freaking out and for them it's just another Friday? And if you can start to model that type of mindset, that becomes the foundation from which you will take the right action to achieve amazing results. And your whole belief system will change. Like if you think it's possible, I remember when I was one of my first vision boards, my dream at the time, I remember two things. One is I had a daily sales screenshot and I was just like, my dream would have been $3,000 a day, right? I was like, oh my God, if I could hit $3,000 a day, it would be an absolute dream. I also had an M5, BMW M5 on my vision board. And I was actually telling my son yesterday, like we've had the M5 now for 10 years and it's still a great car. It's 10 years old. I had got it in 2014, but from 2009 until 2014, the M5 was my dream car. And it took me 5 friggin' years to make it happen. And now it's like the runt of the litter. I've got, 2 McLarens and things change over time. But I look back on that and I was like, oh my God, like this would be the dream. And the same with my daily revenue, $3,000 per day at the time. Now it's very, very different, okay? If we're not doing that on an hourly basis, there's an issue. But it's just really cool to put yourself in environments that expand what you think is possible. And if I thought that $3,000 a day was a lot of money, I needed to put myself in rooms of people who are doing that on an hourly basis. And that's part of why I was able to build and expand to the way that I have. And you have that same opportunity as well. So anyways, I'm going to finish it there. Again, if you want to put yourself in a room with hundreds of other health professionals who are doing big things, then check out Healthpreneur Live. The link is below in the description. And if you'd like to join us, we have about 24 spots for non-clients. You can click over to the page, learn more about it, and apply to see if this would be a good fit for you to attend, because obviously we can't just let anyone in because it's a pretty exclusive event, but nonetheless, it would change your life. I promise you that. It has done so for so many others who've attended since we've been hosting the event in 2017. So that's all for today. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you. If you haven't done so already, remember to subscribe so you don't miss any other videos coming your way, and I hope you have an awesome day. If you started off with a $10,000 investment in stocks, your average rate of return over a year is about 8%. If we look at real estate, maybe 20% within the context of a year. But if we look at what's possible, at least for our clients, with a perfect client pipeline running social media ads on the front end of that, the average rate of return is 314%.